everybody. It's Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. Today's going to be really, really interesting because we are going to talk about your field of consciousness. Now, I know you're thinking, what does that mean? And I asked the same question, and we're going to find out in just a little bit. But I will tell you, it's also very interesting because I am a huge fan of emotional trauma. I do believe that there are things out of our childhood, out of our adult life. Sometimes they're simple things, and sometimes they're really big, heavy things that can affect us in a way that can really weigh us down. And we need to really learn how to fix that, right? How to get out from underneath that weight that causes a lot of discomfort and a lot of stress and a lot of lack of productivity. Oh, and by the way, today you're going to learn a new word. So you've got to get through the entire podcast in order to learn it. So grab a comfy place to sit or your favorite headphones if you're not on them already. We're going to take a listen to a couple quick sponsors that are really important to me, and we're going to be right back with today's guest.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Welcome back to the Positively Altered podcast. I am Dr. Cindy. I'm so glad you stuck around after listening to our sponsors because they are extremely important to us. But today I have this amazing guest. His name is Dr. William Kalatsky. And I had to learn how to say that because I thought it was Kalatsky and he corrected me. So we're going to get that right. Dr. William Kalatsky, welcome to the Dr. Cindy podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Cindy. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's an absolute pleasure. And I am super excited today because you work in a field that is so intriguing to me and yet very confusing to me. And it's the world of consciousness and healing.
Yes, that's right.
How did you, okay, so, you always ask the story. How'd you get involved? Like, why this topic? Is there a great story that led you here?
There is. It doesn't seem as great to me anymore because it's been a story for such a long time. But when I was a child, my brother and I had intense intestinal pain. And my brother was supposed to have surgery. He was 10 years old. They said it was Crohn's disease. And they said that I likely had the same thing, but I stopped going for testing because the testings were painful and embarrassing at that age. I was 12 years old. We met this healer, this chiropractor. Some people know his name, Donnie Epstein. And he got us both well. And so we didn't need surgery. And we both said, we want to learn how you did what you did. And he said, if you go to chiropractic school, I'll teach you. So the nature of the work was that to learn this sort of consciousness or energetic principles of health, he said, I want you to be a doctor first. And that's how it all started. And well, since then, when you're doing a lot of good work, it just develops in its own direction. You keep noticing new things until, you just figure something out that's pretty extraordinary after some time.
It's so great. When you talk about healing and we relate that back right to the emotional trauma that most of us experience, I'm going to pigeonhole myself for a little bit. Growing up, we were always sort of taught that trauma only revolved around alcoholism or physical abuse, right? It was something massive that we were taught was wrong and there was nothing else around it. Can you talk a little bit about emotional trauma? Because I now know after a lot of decades, it's more than that.
Yeah, well, there's so many kinds, right? There's no trauma that can happen to us without it affecting our emotions, right? When I was 7, I fell and broke my arm. There's a physical trauma, but the emotional fear that went with it, knowing my arm was misshapen, knowing I was going to the doctor and getting my bone pulled out of place and things like that. So there's a lot of things that are around trauma. Today, I even consider trauma not clearing your trauma because it means you're staying in a state of contraction. You're not expanding your life. You're not growing because you're always staying in that time and place that's keeping you back. So to me, trauma is really, even when I work with people in business, a trauma is not closing a deal. Why? Because it's a constriction in who you are. That means you're not expanding and growing.
So nobody walks through life without some sort of emotional trauma.
Every day.
Every day. So now that feels debilitating to me, right? Because if every day we've got to deal with emotional trauma, we're going to need some tools.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And these things, it depends how much they affect our lives, right? The people that I work with will often, they've had enough. They didn't know what I do exists, and then suddenly the grief of a husband passing after months, suddenly someone says, try this, and they're just saying, oh, I guess I got to do something because otherwise the pain is too great.
So would you say the first step in what you do is the acknowledgement, the recognition that we do face some sort of emotional trauma every day, no matter how little or how big?
Definitely. And then it's a question of how does it restrict your life?
Okay. So how important is that restriction? I mean, what if my perception of the emotional trauma is massive, even if the event is small or vice versa? Can it still resonate in poor health, regardless of how we perceive it?
Yeah. If you think it's massive, then it's massive.
Okay.
Because that's how it's going to affect you. And if you think something terrible happened, maybe there's a childhood thing, your dad said something to you and it affected you a lot back then, but today you've healed it. Now, have you? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's go back, remember how that felt, and see how it filters through your life. When I work with someone who had maybe a dog bite as a child and they've been afraid of dogs their whole life, that's a trauma to me. They're missing out on dogs. And when we clear that memory and the pain associated with it, and suddenly they say, oh my God, I love dogs. I cannot believe every time I saw a dog, I was scared. I didn't even realize how traumatic that was for me. And next thing you know, they're enjoying dogs and they're realizing their whole slate of memories filtered through one thing that it just wasn't true.
Great. So now I'm going back to my childhood, right? And every emotional trauma then led me to a couch, right? So to speak. Yes. And talk therapy, which I am not knocking at all. I think there's definitely a time and a place for that. How does the work you do differ from what, those of us that go back decades and decades relate to of, the typical talk therapy with a therapist?
Well, I'll lead with this. For instance, if someone comes to me with shame, I don't need to know the problem. I don't need them to talk about the problem. I just need them to be able to feel it. Because in feeling it, there's a density of the energetics, of the emotions that filters around them. So happiness, we say, is fleeting, right? But anger and sadness, you can remember from 20 years ago and feel it like it's today. There's a density to these emotions that essentially surround us and in a way protect us at the time, but we don't want to keep them forever. Now, happiness is fleeting as an evolution, right? We need happiness to be fleeting because then we chase and we create more reasons to be happy. So there's an evolution of who we are, and it makes the world better because we just keep finding ways to feel happy. It's like we need our next hit, while anger, we don't want our next hit. We want it to go away. We just don't know how. So what was your question again?
I don't even no. I think it was how that was great. How the work that you do differs from typical of like we walk into the therapist's office and share all our right. Yeah.
Right. So you don't need to speak with this work. You can, but what I find is, as I was going to say, when somebody has shame around a situation, they don't want to talk about it. But when we clear the frequency and the emotion of shame is gone, they're no longer shamed to talk about it because it's the feeling that restricts somebody. So when somebody says, gosh, there's somebody I screwed up and I really want to apologize, I just can't bring myself to do it. And then we clear that emotion and they go, oh, why don't I just apologize? That's weird. What was stopping me from apologizing? It becomes common sense. You become the observer. So with talk therapy, in a sense, it's very similar. Long term, you're changing a frequency. Time plus talking about it plus, having, realizations, there's a state change. Just like if you're in the middle of something serious, you're focused, and then you get a call that's an emergency, you have a state change, a frequency change immediately, and you go to take care of the emergency, forgetting what you were doing. And so therapy does that too over time. And what I do is that as well, except it takes me about 20 minutes because I'm going right to the frequency.
Amazing. And I want to hold that thought. We're going to make people hang out to hear how you do some of that work. But it's interesting because as I'm listening to you, I think about some of the things that I say when I'm speaking on stage about how we're wired with all the negative thoughts we have every day, right? We're wired for negativity. We hold on to that and how much work we actually have to do to have a positive thought. I'm curious now, when you talk about we're searching for those happiness moments, but we don't, and I don't want to misinterpret, so correct me if I'm not saying this, appropriately, but it's almost like those happiness moments are so fleeting, as you say, where they're wonderful, but we don't then spend the next week, year riding that wave, so to speak, where the thing that happened that's negative, we do ride, right? That anger, the resentment, right? I can't believe what she did to me 72, months ago, and I'm still holding on to it, right? The fact that she wasn't my best friend in that moment.
Yes.
So do you think there's a correlation between the emotional trauma and the fact that we are wired neurologically to actually think negatively, therefore because trauma is a negative word. What do you believe is that relationship as I'm describing it based on the event versus what people are truly holding on to energetically? That was a long question. So if I have to repeat it again, I will.
So the trauma doesn't ride us. The trauma, it lands on us, right? It's very much like what some people would call the resonance or the law of manifestation. When you put your hand in front of a mirror, immediately there's a frequency of light that matches, and now there's another hand matching. Same thing with our emotions. When you're having a great day, the day just continues to be great, right? You're in that flow. And so when you have something that's traumatic, you're just resonating trauma. And there's a lot to that when it comes to how we create our lives and the resonance that we're in the present moment. So what we need to do is really let go of the things that are holding us back. The things from 72 months ago is a misperception. It's a viewpoint. Somebody else it happens to. I remember in school, somebody once looked at me and said, "Those are weird shoes." And I said, "Oh, thanks." But they meant it negatively, but it didn't click for me till later. Right? Because, I don't know, however my mind thought about it. So there is something about how we hold on to these things and how actually there's a system to let them go so quickly. And I'm not sure if I answered your question because, like you said, it was a long question. If you'll take me back there.
I've got a new one now, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Well, everybody out there can keep track of all the things you and I don't answer together, and then I guess that leads us to the second podcast. Great. So we're okay that way. So I guess here's where I'm now really intrigued. If we can do some work to get rid of the negative energy, are there also really cool things in our life we could do to block it where it doesn't actually affect us in the first place?
Yes. And that is, things even just like meditation, right? It balances out your system. So if you're hypersensitive, interestingly, before this work, I developed a method that I was working with the hospitals in the UK on I figured out the resonance of headaches, migraine headaches, and how to clear them over Zoom. So I became the referral source in the apps for the UK hospital system. If you're pregnant and you get migraines or other headaches, here's the guy to call if the meds don't work, right? So the headache work and doing that for a couple of years is what led me to notice oh, this is all bundles of emotions that are compressed, and we need to open the drain so they can get out. My take on headaches is essentially your engine light in your car goes off. It's not the engine that's the light that's the problem. It's telling you there is a problem under the hood, and that's headaches. There's something under the hood that tends to be an overwhelm in the system. So how do we decrease the overwhelm? We have to do things that sometimes don't make sense, right? The subconscious doesn't just let you in. You have to enter through a side door, be distracted. So it could be meditation. Well, gosh, how does that help me de-stress from something terrible that's happened to me? It just does. It pieces out the brain. It quiets the mind. It lowers the brainwave from a reactive place, because if you're overwhelmed, everything sets you off. And if you're really peaceful, you just go, that's not so bad.
Oh my gosh. It's so hard to do though, William, right?
Yeah.
It's so hard to do. I think it's so hard to, my brain won't stop. It doesn't shut off. I've got too much in my life, right? We come up as humans, I think, with multiple excuses as to why we don't quiet the brain.
We don't want to.
What is your favorite initial, if you were to, okay, so I'm one of those, right? Like I'm always up high. What is one great exercise we could all do to start with to see how we can bring that frequency in check to quiet things?
Well, one of my favorites is, I have a book called The Intuition Method, and I go through exercises for people who say they can't sit to meditate. And my favorite one actually increases intuition as well. And I call it super slow movement. It's almost like a Tai Chi kind of thing or a Qigong, but you're just moving your arm from the bottom to the top, just like this, just once. And after you do that, you do it again with your eyes closed, but you count from 1 to 10. And then you do it again and you count from 1 to 50. So now you're not just sitting with your eyes closed, meditating, you're giving yourself an activity. And as you slow the numbers from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10 to 50 to 100, your brain begins to notice space between the space. You begin to notice all of the little moments that you missed in that one broad movement, and your brain starts to chunk down time, and that's where intuition lays. That's intuition in your brain is placed between the moments, between the thoughts. So when you begin to notice these incremental spaces, your brain starts to catch them, just like a film strip has 30 frames in a second, and some companies will sneakily take one frame and turn it into a buy our product, a subliminal, right? Mm-hmm. And they've been caught for that before. So what we're doing is saying, oh, let me go from 1 to 100, click, click, click. And the brain will begin to notice these tiny little moments that begin to make you aware of your thoughts, make you begin to get aware of things around you that are happening that you would have missed. And it's a basic training in terms of accessing the parts of your mind where intuition lives.
Oh my gosh. So my first reaction was, I'm going to do this with you, right? Like, yes. Look at that. I mastered that one, right?
Perfect.
And then when you said count to 10, I'm like, I can nail this. The minute you started to go to count to 100, I freaked out.
Yeah.
I immediately panicked when you said that. And I'm like, I don't know how I don't know how I'm going to take 100 counts to raise my arm without now being stressed out about it.
You just try it. It's like a Rolex watch versus another brand. The Rolex just goes, you start out choppy. And then after a little while, you're just so smooth because your brain gets used to these light little movements. So you're reprocessing your neurology. You're changing the way your brain functions, which is amazing because now you have a new awareness. You're going to notice things you've never noticed.
I am going to do this. I'm going to try this, and I'm going to challenge all our listeners to try it. And if you guys hear me screaming Dr. Williams' name at any point during the rest of the day, you're going to know it's because I reached like count number 25 and went full-blown panic. Perfect.
And just so you know, as I mentioned in the book, if you have shoulder problems, use the other arm, move it in a way. It could be any body part. It tends to be an easy thing to use your arm.
Okay, no, that's fair. I want to talk about intuition. So I am a Pisces. I was born in March. I'm a Pisces.
Oh, great.
I am supposed. Oh, good. When's your birthday?
November 10th.
Okay, how are you a Pisces on November 10th?
No, I'm a Scorpio. You're a Pisces. But Pisces and Scorpios are brother-sister signs. We understand.
I was like, boy, that Pisces, like it took over almost the entire calendar, Pisces. Yeah, so much. So and yes, I buy into a lot of the astrology and I'm very intuitive, but I will tell you, I don't feel like I actually am as intuitive as I'm still trying to figure out who they are in the medical space or any of the spaces, but I don't feel that I'm as intuitive as I'm supposed to be or capable. So how do we tap into our intuition? Because I would love to get better at that. I think it's really an amazing gift.
Well, first I'll tell you the value of intuition, right?
Okay.
Because that in itself is amazing. Intuition, it's an umbrella for coincidence. It's an umbrella for luck. It's an umbrella for deja vu. All of these things I call moments of natural strangeness. These things that happen in our life every day, they're strange, but we act like they're normal. Such as you think of someone and a half a second later they text you, right? Mm-hmm. Happens to everyone. It's a phenomenon. It should be studied, and yet we act like, okay, it just happens, but it's a real thing, right? So our mind is telling us things in these quiet moments if we learn. So our intuition speaks to us at about this level of sound, if it's a sound or a feel. But our minds are noisy up here. So we have to figure out how to bring the noise down, because this is not going to get much louder, but this can get much lower. And when they just about meet, that's when you start hearing messages or feeling messages. And if we're so busy, we're not paying attention. If we're playing music too loud, we're not paying attention. So the easiest way to train your intuition it's a method I developed called the foundational breath technique, where you learn to use your breath to feel what feels right or wrong. And it's super simple. I have people use their cell phones. I have them hold basically hold the phone against their chest, take a breath, put the phone down, take a breath, just a relaxed breath, and just notice the difference. And everyone will notice when their phone is next to their chest, there's a restriction in their breathing. It feels heavy, like a lead apron. And when you put the phone down, it suddenly opens up. And then if you get like a nice organic vegetable or fruit and you hold it next to you, you'll feel yourself suddenly take a beautiful deep breath, and you start to gauge which breath is right, which one is wrong, and that's the alphabet. And as you do it in practice, the alphabet expands to words, to paragraphs, to a whole book, and now you're getting full-blown messaging. So it's really about accenting the breath is the easiest way to access the subconscious, because it's what's autonomic. It runs for us while we're sleeping, yet we can kind of control it to a point. We can speed it up.
So now if I get really good at holding the zucchini next to my chest, the next invention is how to make that zucchini make a phone call.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you have to, it's probably on its way, a couple microchips away.
Right. So that we get back to that. So how detrimental, and I think I know the answer to this question, and share it with people all the time, but how detrimental then is the frequency of all of these electronics that we've just welcomed, and, we've welcomed this into our life 24/7?
Well, I can't say for sure, but I'm very careful. I've got protective devices. I've got a case that blocks radiation when my phone is in my pocket. Part of the testing that I do to teach people to become energy sensitive is I tell them to shut off their main router in their house for a few hours, because we live in this radiation, right? Mm-hmm. And then just plug it back in after 3 hours and just stand there and notice how you feel. You'll feel your lip twitch. You'll notice a little sudden headache. Things you just didn't realize, gosh, could this be related? I ordered one of those new fiber optic routers from the cable company, and it was all kind of discounts and things. Within the day, I had to return it. I suddenly had this tinnitus in my ears, this tension in my face, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? So if you're sensitive, you're going to notice it. And if you're not sensitive, your body's still going to pay for it. You're just not noticing it because you're not paying attention.
Right. No, it makes sense. All right, let's dive into the book a little bit more. Is this your first book that you've published?
This is not my first book. No.
What number is this?
This is book number 3. The book number 1 I won't talk about. Book number 2 is called, it was a kid's book that I wrote about a little piranha who was learning the art of non-biting. It was a book to get kids interested in meditation and yoga called Pranayama and the Art of Non-Biting.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, and pranayama is the breath work too, as you probably know.
Pranayama?
Yeah, pranayama. Pranayama in meditation is a kind of breathing where you cover your nose, alternate nostrils. And then during a meditation, I realized, oh my God, pranayama, the art of non-biting. My goodness, let me see if I have a copy. I do have a copy right here. And I had an artist from Pixar do the artwork. And so here we go.
Pranayama. I love that. Oh my God, and the character, for those of you that are just listening and not seeing, the character is absolutely adorable.
Yes.
Absolutely adorable.
Yeah, it's a super amazing book. She learns how to access her Kundalini. We call her inner light. This is her Her teacher put on a 1. I mean, it's an adorable story. I wrote it back in 2018. And so most of the things I write are on this path. I have a new one coming out called The Squeakrit, which is about this. It's The Secret, essentially, but about these little rats that are learning how to enhance their lives and change. So I just love to write.
Oh my gosh, I love it. For those of you that don't want to dive into then a big thick book, we've got options. But let's go back to the intuition method, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to read this book. What are some of the key takeaways I'm going to get once I finish it?
Well, you'll understand intuition is the feminine. Manifestation is the masculine, right? Intuition is inward. Women are sensitive. They feel. Manifestation starts with the word man, and it's the outward projection. It's, building a reality. That's just the hunter and the gatherer side of things. And so intuition and manifestation are on the same spectrum. They're the two sides of a coin. So when you learn how to use your intuition effectively, you get clarity. And when you have clarity, you can then align your feelings and your thoughts to manifest. Because everyone says, I'm manifesting this, and it's, well, you are. You're creating your life, but to manifest, you have to be festive. And if you're not festive, you're still creating. It's just not what you want. So we want to get into this joyous state. So we generate feelings around that as we focus on what we want. And that's the takeaway from the book, is really do these steps, access your intuition so you can manifest the way you want your life to be.
I love that. So do you really believe in that statement? You've got to be careful what you ask for?
Not exactly. I think you have to be careful what your subconscious is asking for, because that's the generator. We can train our subconscious, but we all think we know what we want. But the fact is that if we don't have what we want, it means our subconscious is running a program, because on a conscious level, we could build what we want. But if we're not doing it, something's running in the background that we need to change. So the code is different. We have viruses in the system. We need the antivirus.
I love that. I love that. All right. We talked a little bit about clearing some emotional trauma, and I don't want to give away all your tricks because they're going to have to find you to do that. But where's one first place we can start for those of us listening?
Well, they can go to my website and write to me, ask me questions, go to my Instagram. I do group sessions around the country. I'm in Miami right now. I'll be in Colorado next month and New York next month. I'm in Medellin, Colombia now, thank God. And very literally, thank God, because I'm starting to work with churches down there, and I'm so happy about that. I was just in Medellin, and my Uber driver said to me, can you help somebody who's had grief for 5 years after they lost their son? And I said, that's exactly what I do. And he said, well, that's me. So I said, let's pull over after the ride. And we took about 15 minutes and we cleared the trauma. And now he's helping me set up meetings with the churches so I can work with thousands of people together at the same time.
I love this.
So beautiful.
For those of us that need the clearing, right? Is it truly a permanent state that we change into and then we have to address the next emotional trauma, or is it temporary?
It depends on the situation. If it's from the past, if it's something that's already put away and you're just living with that grief, we just did group session last week in Miami, and somebody who was depressed for about a year. She was on medication. She came to 2 sessions. First one was about 50%. And group sessions are obviously different than privates, but there can be a lot of people, and I'll bring people to the front. After the second session, I hadn't heard from her about her. I asked my event producer, who said, oh, yeah, she's on a cruise in the Mediterranean. I said, are you kidding? Can you have her send me a testimonial from the boat? And she did. So if it's from the past, then it's a permanent change because it's a frequency change. Something might trigger it, but I don't know what that's going to be. On the other hand, if you're going through something consistent and you're going back home to a difficult relationship or something like that, there's follow-up because new things are happening. You have to, when you feel clear and feel better, there's still adult decisions to be made about how to handle the situation. But when you change, when you let go of the pain, and then we actually install a new program, new code, new frequency, which means once there's a tabula rasa, once there's the blank slate and everything's clear, some people go, oh gosh, I feel so empty. This is really weird. And some people go, wow, I feel so clean and open. So some people see it as possibility, but some people also see it as, gosh, I don't know what to do with all this feeling of openness. So what we do is a guided meditation at the end in the present moment to install that new feeling that you want. So you have the vacuum that's been created is now being used instead of letting, nightly news come in and fill that new frequency.
Yeah, that's probably not the best thing to fill the gap.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, as our nightly news.
Yes.
Is there a name to the technique that you've developed?
Yes, it's called Field of Consciousness Healing, or Field of Consciousness Method. It's fieldofconsciousness.com.
I absolutely love that. All right. I know we're going to find you on the website, but give me an exercise the minute I log off that I can use.
Wow. There's an exercise that I love. I call it my epic success story. It's usually homework for my private clients, and it involves ChatGPT or any AI that you use. And what I have people do after we clear the negative patterns, and I have them do something called ring the bell, which is to go back to the guided meditation, remember the moment that felt the best for them, and essentially like you're throwing a penny into the pond. When you have a penny, you throw it in. You don't keep thinking about the penny. You then watch the ripples in the water. And so you're going to think of something positive that's happened in your life for a half a second, like you're throwing the penny or ringing a bell, and then just sit and feel the feeling it generated for about 30 seconds. So we start to change our neurology. And that leads to the homework with ChatGPT, where instead of just creating present moment feelings to generate and that frequency, you're going to tell ChatGPT enough about your life and what you want in your life to create a past tense success story. As if you were at an award ceremony and they were reading about you and you're hearing about your life, and it's something that should be very moving and emotional, like a John Williams orchestra playing in the background. And when you hear it and it reads it back to you, you keep editing it until it feels just perfect, and then you make that a daily listen, because it brings up the feelings of what you want in your life, which means you're going to start to generate those things.
I'm so intrigued and impressed by the fact that you are taking something that is so scary to a lot of people, AI, right? A lot of us are hesitant, or there's the unknown, and incorporating it into such, and I wanted to say basic, but that's really not true. Such pure, that's a better word, pure work, right? Energetically, and coupling them together to really achieve an outcome. And I think that's, what a cool thing, because I fully expected to just hear you almost repel technology, right? And push that away in a sense to get to the purity of just the emotion. And I think it's such a great combo. So where do you see this going in our world that we're moving toward AI and all of that direction? How do you see it working in your field to really continue to benefit your clients?
Well, at University of Miami, one of the first things they asked me was, how can we use AI with your work? And I didn't have an answer, because my work is very specific and it's happening at the time, meaning AI, how would that enhance things? And so what did I do? I asked AI how it could help me with my work. And it said, once you get all of the data about the brain waves changing, how the blood changes, cortisol levels, HRV, heart rate variability, and everything else that changes as you're doing your session, because I'll be wearing an EEG, a headset that tracks my brain waves. You'll be wearing one as my client. And so once we get all the data, then we can possibly use AI and the virtual reality goggles and the sounds to induce brainwave states that will clear trauma. So that's one way it may be able to be used, but we don't know yet.
Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. So this research that you're talking about has been ongoing at the University of Miami, right? And are there a couple key things when you're done with this project that you're hoping to achieve, that can then be shared with the public?
Well, what I was asked at first was, what do you want? Do you want to collect data? Do you want to work in the hospital? And the answer was, I was going for the data. I didn't know I'd be invited to work there, and I was thrilled. So at this point, I get referrals because when, for instance, in the cardiology program, there's often high anxiety around heart disease. People are very stressed. And so with what I do, we can clear that anxiety in one session, because we're not addressing the anxiety, we're addressing a frequency that holds anxiety. And so we're coming from a further space outwards and just addressing frequency to emotion to physical, and often physical changes will happen too, right? Because you can imagine if you're always upset, you're going to have higher blood pressure. Let's say you're always angry. So that's going to be one of the things that we'll be doing there. And I think, they asked me if I would like to work in the hospital, and depending on my time, just, a couple days a month. And for me, that's exciting because I get to share the work with more doctors. I get other people to say, oh, you're here, show me what you do. And I love, everywhere I go, I do demonstrations because the work is so fast. There's a physical aspect to the work where I can, do the same kind of thing, but clear a physical pain for someone so quickly that it leaves people kind of with their jaws open a little bit, like, what just happened? I thought for energy or for something like this, I need to lay on a table and set the lighting and things like this. And really, it just, in a few minutes, almost any physical pain can be cleared. Now, it may only last for a few days because I'm only doing it for a few minutes, and they're all patterns. They're all frequency patterns that can be shifted. So it takes longer sometimes for physical, but for emotional, the value is so big because there was a time I was in the hospital. I was in so much pain for an obstruction, a bowel obstruction, and they gave me morphine. And when it kicked in, I said, this is a miracle. Painkillers are a miracle. If I didn't know they exist, I would think this was magic. And it's along those lines where how does something change so quickly and so dramatically where, I get text messages after these group sessions that are so beautiful. I haven't cried in days. Thank you so much. Things like that. And for me, it's the greatest gift. Now I'm starting to work with child trafficking rescue organizations. And just imagine, I'm going to get to work with the kids that were rescued and the veterans that are going to rescue them. So I get both sides of this, and as someone who's very sensitive to people's feelings, I get to really enjoy and feel the feelings of their freedom that's been compressed due to trauma. So, these are things that for me, you can imagine I get a lot out of it.
Absolutely amazing. And as much as that's such a beautiful statement, and I do want to take a quick break to listen to our sponsors, but I do have one more just really simple question. Can you just break down a little bit more granularly when you say when I work with somebody, what they would truly expect, right? So they show up to a group session, they're on Zoom with you. I'm sure there's some anxiety just built into what exactly is it he's going to do with me. And I would love to just leave our listeners with a quick explanation of that to remove that anxiety.
Yes. So it is, what I'm going to tell you doesn't make sense until you have the experience. I get messages from people saying, watching from the audience was one thing, seeing what was happening, but until I got the experience myself, I couldn't have understood that this is what was happening. There's a lot happening behind the curtain. So first thing that will happen is somebody will tell me if they want to, they don't have to, what's happening in their life for them. Some people want to, some don't. What I'll do is I'll just do something that calms the mind very quickly, brings you into a quiet state, and then I'll ask you again what it is you want to work on, because often when the mind gets quiet, the things you thought were very big are not as big, and maybe there's something else. From there, I'll have you feel the feelings. When you feel those feelings, you immediately bring up a density. You can imagine that your blood pressure changes, your brain waves change. So I've developed that sensitivity, and I'm teaching now how to develop that sensitivity so others can do this kind of thing too, because it's available to all of us, just like feeling radiation, just like feeling heat. And once that comes up, I'll help to clear that frequency. I'll ask them again, okay, think about it again. Usually at that point already, the person says, I'm really finding it harder to feel it. And I say, right, because it's a frequency, it's not you. It's something that's caused you to feel a certain way. When we clear that, now you get to we'll do another round or two, and then usually another emotion comes up. Wow, it's not even angry. I realize I'm sad. And then we'll clear the sadness till they're at point zero, and that's when we'll do an installation of the new emotions. It's very simple.
I absolutely love this, and thank you for breaking that down. We are going to be right back with Dr. William Kalatsky, and we're going to do a round of questions he wasn't prepared for. Are you up for that, William?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see where it takes us and where your consciousness goes. Hang tight, everybody. We're going to take a quick listen to our sponsors, and we will be right back with Dr. William Kalatsky. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. Welcome back. We are here with Dr. William Kalatsky. I am super excited for this part of the show because he is unprepared 100% for what is about to be asked, and we're just going to see where he goes. You ready?
Yeah.
What is one place on earth you would love to see you haven't?
Love to see that I haven't. I don't know. It's going to be some beautiful waterfall somewhere in the middle of South American country. I don't know which one, though.
Doesn't matter, right? As long as it's a beautiful waterfall.
Beautiful waterfall, yeah.
Okay. Because water resonates at a certain frequency that feels good?
I don't know. You asked me the question. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, no, that's fair. And again, there's no right or wrong answers with any of these. It's just for fun. What is your biggest guilty pleasure?
Probably pizza. Gluten-free pizza.
Gluten-free pizza. What's your toppings?
It's actually a Costco pizza. It's a frozen Costco pizza. It's probably the best frozen pizza that I've had that's gluten-free.
You know what? I think that's ridiculous, but I like the answer. You know, it's not some big fancy specialty place, right?
Well, I mean, there's a great one nearby too. Mr. Owan is amazing, but you know, it's just so convenient. I get to Costco and there's that pizza that's so delicious, non-GMO. I just, here we go.
I didn't even know Costco had a gluten-free pizza. And actually, if they would now make a gluten-free, dairy-free pizza, I'd be in.
Right. That would be called Daya. That would be called the Daya pizza, but that's not at Costco.
No, and it's not that good. Oh, I'm sorry if anybody's listening, but okay. Right. Anybody who's listening from Costco, you've got a challenge. Mm-hmm. All right. If you could go back in time, what decade would you go back to?
Wow. I would go back to... I might go back to sometime probably in the 1700s.
Yes?
Yeah, I would go there and see if I can sort of alter a trajectory. Let's show them a little bit about what I'm doing, make some changes, let people realize that they don't have to hold on to the trauma they're holding on to, and really bring the world into a new direction, hopefully much quicker.
Oh my gosh, we'd be in a magical place. If I was capable, I would send you, William. I don't have that gift, but I would send you. One day when I'm in charge of the world, I'll call you back and we'll make that happen.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. If you had to swap lives with a cartoon character, what cartoon character would you be?
Oh, wow. Dr. Strange.
Oh, yeah.
Not even a thought.
That was your fastest answer out of all the questions.
Because Dr. Strange was the master of mystical arts. It was my favorite comic book hero as a child, understanding, he could do all the things, he could do everything that I do today, plus way more.
Okay.
I used to study these things. I was the youngest person to have a subscription to Psychology Today magazine. I was 11 years old. I just wanted to understand how consciousness works, and there were no teachers. And Dr. Strange, it's fringe science. Every superhero comic is today's science. So, Dr. Strange.
All right, so everybody out there, it's still Dr. William. It's not Dr. Strange if you meet him in person, right. Just to be clear.
Yes.
All right. Is there any one word that you love that you resonate with?
Well, I coined the word prosequences.
Say it one more time.
Prosequences.
Prosequences, okay.
When I realized the world was structured to make us think and feel negatively with the word consequences, everything has a consequence, and I realized, what about the prosequences? What about the things we do that create a stream of positive events afterwards? So I love the word prosequences. When I'll say to somebody, so what are the prosequences of that? How many great things are going to come from what you just did? And it changes the way people look at their actions. Like, wow, there could be domino effects where great things happen in the world because of this. So,
oh my gosh. I love that. May I steal it as long as I give you credit for it?
Please do, yes.
Okay, I always give credit. I never steal things without giving credit. I will absolutely give it to you, but I love that, and I'm gonna use that from this moment forward. So thank you.
Add it to your question list.
I'm going to. What was your pro? Oh my God! See, my brain is so trained to go to consequence. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
I have to practice. Okay, you know what? I'm going to practice as I count to 100.
Perfect.
I'm going to find that moment in between my numbers to practice that word.
Yourself about something you've done and the consequences from it.
Consequences, see?
That'll lock it in for you. Like, wow, I did this and this helped this person. Because of this, they did this. And 10 years later, it spun into something beautiful.
I love it. So Julie, who's my producer, who's behind the scenes, after we get done with this podcast, we're going to spend a half hour saying that word so that we can get it ingrained in our psyche so that it's easy to say. Oh my gosh. And lastly, William, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Oh, my favorite thing was seeing how your personality just pops and flows, and how you just kind of like run with it, and you keep that energy high.
Oh my gosh, always, right? That's the consequence of hanging out with me.
Consequence, yes.
That is the consequence. Absolutely. All right. How does everybody find you? Where do they get the book? How do they get a hold of you and work with you? Share any information for our listeners and watchers to
Easiest way, the book is available on Amazon. Go to intuitionmethod.com and it'll take you right to the Amazon link when you click. And my website is fieldofconsciousness.com, and that's if anybody wants to work with me, group sessions. Starting to work with the school system now, which is amazing and beautiful. I travel, people host all over the country, now in South America. And so if anybody says, hey, I'd love to do a group session, I've got a lot of people that would love to be there for this, fieldofconsciousness.com, send me an email, and you can join my WhatsApp group, which I'll give you the link if you go to my website. I've got Instagram, which is william.kalatsky.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. Lots of great places to find you. I want to thank everybody for listening today. If you want to learn more about what we're doing in the positively altered space, feel free to shoot us an email at hello@drcindyspeaks.com, or just drcindyspeaks.com is the website. You can check us out. If you want to reach us at the office, you can at 708-479-0020. If you're raising an arm and you're counting to 100 much faster than I can, we'd also love to hear how that's going for you. Please feel free to share that, and make sure you're checking out the book and Dr. William Kalatsky's website. Today, whatever it is that you have learned, I hope it has left you positively altered.